Juraj Slafkovsky continues his reign of terror over the World Hockey Championships as he bodies Shane Pinto, who cowers away in fear. We got to go through that. There's a lot of stuff we got to get into, Jesse. That plus Oliver Kapanen shows out with two more goals as he now leads the tournament in goals. This young Habs prospect is doing some amazing stuff. That plus the Habs are linked to a 30-goal scorer in the KHL. Jesse, we got a ton of stuff we got to get into on this live episode of Habs Digest. Welcome everyone who's in the stream. Hello everyone. Hello Tony. Shout out to Tony, channel member. We got a lot of people in here. So who's everyone terrified of? Well, it's Juraj Slafkovsky, Robert, and Jesse. We might as well just get straight into it. I'm going to play that again. Juraj Slafkovsky. People, Sens fans can get out of here, right? I'm sure there might be some Sens fans watching this at some point. They think Shane Pinto got the best of the situation. There is no way. Shane Pinto comes in, tries to mess with Team Slovakia. Juraj comes up and bodies him as Team Slovakia beats Team USA in overtime 5-4. Yeah, they blew a 4-1 lead, Jesse. But to see Slovakia beat Team United States and to see Slav do that in this game, I don't think Sens fans have a leg to stand on. I think this is just Slav bodying him. Pinto didn't want any of that smoke. Maybe Slav just didn't like sports gambling. I don't know, but I am just so proud to see what Slav and his Team Slovakia, even though Slav didn't get a point, his Team Slovakia game, Pospisil and a lot of other guys played absolutely out of their minds today.
And getting those bragging rights over Caufield at the same time, right? But, you know, Pinto, he didn't want none of it. And I love Slav just imposing his will in this tournament, just basically willing Team Slovakia to victory by all means necessary. And sometimes that means kind of defending your team, defending your goalie when there's somebody in there trying to rattle a few cages, right? So absolutely so amazing to see, Josh, that, you know, Juraj Slafkovsky is one of the best NHLers at this tournament so far, having one of the best turnout so far. But as we're going to definitely get into, we got another prospect from the Montreal organization, not even with the big club, that's competing with these NHLers. And not only that, is at the top of the goal scoring with 5 goals from Oliver Kapanen, absolutely lighting it up right now, looking like he's ready for the NHL tomorrow. Now, he might need a little bit more seasoning, but this guy is showing that he can hang already.
For sure. And Jesse, we starting off hot here as Planko, noted Slovakia fan. Planko is now a channel member. I don't have a channel member animation, so we'll just give you the super chat. Thank you so much for becoming a channel member, Planko, a wonderful supporter here for every single stream. And hey, if you guys want your chat messages answered, we do answer by donations and chat and channel members in priority order, like Tony there, which is great about Kapanen. We will get into Kapanen a bit later, but Jesse, we got to get into some Slav stuff right away. That's what the fans want. That's what everyone watching this wants to hear about. And we're just going to show what he had to say. Now, this is translated from Slovakian in the article, so it might not be perfect, but basically he said, hockey's played for goals, not for fights, I think is what that should be. Now I can tease Caufield for the rest of my life. He goes on to say that Team USA just wanted to fight all the time. I guess they don't understand that things here are a little different than in the NHL. He said, we knew it. We were aware hockey's played for goals, not for fights. There was also the risk of many, I guess, expulsions, penalties, whatever. But I would say that we handled it fairly solidly and did not allow ourselves to be provoked so easily. Unbelievable stuff, super mature stuff, Jesse, from Slav, a guy who really, really likes to get down and dirty. It's clear he wants all that smoke, as we actually have Blanco, who sends a super chat saying, guess who beat Team USA? Well, we certainly know Blanco with the €2 donation. Thank you very much. It was Slavzilla. In fact, we're going to play it. Jesse, even though he didn't get a point, when you watch the game with the puck on Slav's stick, he just creates so much. And one thing he's doing at this tournament, against other grown men, of course, he's using his body so well. And yeah, his teammates really stepped up big today, despite that maybe third period where they were playing 2 lackadaisical. Slav stood out as always. And for all the Slovakian fans who are watching this, just shout out to your team for beating Team USA. What an achievement.
Yeah, that was a huge win, right? Like against this USA team that is just stacked full of NHL players. But we know Slav is all about winning, right? That Slav winning today means a happy Slavzilla, because we know otherwise he wants none of it, right? And they're coming in this tournament and they want to do something. Like this barn was absolutely wild. They were going for Slovakia. Like the hockey, the excitement was just absolutely nuts. The atmosphere, right? And they're all just encouraging this team forward.
Yeah, it's been unbelievable stuff. And yeah, we see so many people. Hugo Platek saying all 4 lines for Slovakia played well. Very true. We got a few channel members in the chat, Jesse, not just Planko, the new channel member, Tony Loy, the longtime channel member. We got Matt here as well. Thank you, Matt, for joining. Good afternoon, fine gentlemen. Good afternoon to you, Matt. Thank you for being around the channel for so long. Filip the Tank Poirier, Slafkovsky the Thug, I mean, I think we got to play this again. We got to play Chadkovsky. This is another meme that we're going to keep around for back the F up. And you know what? That guy's a Chad. He knows what he's
Oh,
doing. Yeah, Juraj Slafkovsky again. It feels like he has a meme every day, Jesse. I mean, from Slafmad, I got these named here. Slafmad 1, Slafmad 2. He is absolutely everywhere. Number 1, number 2, and then we also got him doing this, the cry face, and then back to today, of course, this here. Now, this confidence, Jesse, I feel like we talk about this all the time, and I want to get your guys' opinion in the chats or in the comments if you're watching this as a VOD. How well do you think this is going to transfer to the NHL next season? Because again, this is a level of confidence we haven't really seen from him at that NHL level, but he's learning slowly that he can get away with whatever he wants against other grown men, against big bodies at every single level. And I feel like him seeing this now, having this edge to his game is something he's going to bring next year, something that, he'll probably talk to Arber about to learn how to do it a bit better at the NHL level. But I think taking what he has now already and adding that extra super edge to it is going to make him legitimately almost unstoppable if things all go to plan.
Because the psychological and the intimidation part of the game is such a big part of it, right? And confidence is something, and respect is something that you need to earn in the NHL as anywhere else. And Slav is doing that, but once you earn that respect, that confidence, it means you can go on the ice with a little bit more swagger. It means you can kind of shake it up, take care of your team, maybe call out some things when you have to. Now, of course, that always needs to be in the parameters, but Slav does such a good job of really knowing. We know he's passionate for his country. We know that he's fired up. He's fired up for playing with the Habs too, right? But I think he knows this good zone of really getting involved in the game, but without kind of taking it over the top. But it's really what's needed, right? In a close game like today, it's really all hands on deck. He's doing everything from being creative in the offensive zone, looking to set up plays, to back checking hard, to being physical, to mixing it up when he has to, right? So these are all amazing things. And you have to feel, and I'd love to hear in the chat, as this guy grows into his frame and just continues to get bigger, do we think that this intimidation is just likely to increase in the NHL?
I think so. I think we're going to see Slav drop the mitts a bit more. I think we would have maybe seen it already in this tournament if fighting, was kind of just not a thing in these tournaments. Fair, right? That's the thing. We saw him try it already. It's crazy. I don't want him to go out there hurting himself. That's the thing. I don't want him to get reckless. He's still young. You can tell very much that he still likes to, run his mouth a bit. He still likes to be a little maybe too aggressive, and you'll have to tone him back. But I think it's better to have that and to have to tone it down than to have someone that never has that edge in the first place. So I think it is going to play a huge, huge role. Going to take another look at the chat here. Tony Loy saying having that confidence is great. Just hope it doesn't get to his head in a bad way. Exactly what I'm saying. I think that's very much true. But Jesse, we've talked a lot about Slav 10 minutes. I'm sure we'll get back into it if again, guys, we answer channel members and donations in priority. We'll try to get to other messages as well. But we got to talk a bit about Cole Caufield. A lot of people were upset not seeing Cole Caufield too much in overtime. A bit upset with his playing time. Now, while he did play about 15 minutes, I believe he came in at more time than Zegras. People are upset at how they're using him. I know we said at the start maybe him on the bumper was good, but it just doesn't seem to be working the last little bit. Felt like Hines behind the bench was switching lines left and right. It feels like this Team USA has no cohesion, and I feel like it's kind of hurting Caufield. I feel like, Slav is joking about, hey, Cole Caufield, I'm going to hold this over him for the rest of his life, the rest of his career, whatever. Caufield's probably not very happy with how this tournament is going. I know he had a couple assists last game, but to lose to Slovakia on a team that looks disjointed, if I'm a Team USA fan, I'm probably not too thrilled with where this team is right now.
Oh, definitely. And considering, there's two players in this tournament that are doing something from the Montreal Canadiens that are some of the best players, and that it's not Cole Caufield that's one of them, is almost very surprising, right? We see an Oliver Kapanen with 5 goals. It's crazy to say, but it would seem like he's kind of outplaying Cole Caufield at this tournament, while Cole has amazing line mates to play with as well. Now, there's still lots of hockey to come, right? We obviously don't want to rule out Team USA. We know with the juniors, they won the gold this last year. They're doing a great job of development and everything else. But I mean, it just goes to show you're really getting a team effort from Slovakia. And that seems to kind of be trumping a little bit more of the individual efforts that we're getting from a lot of the American players.
Yeah, it's really, really strange. strange. It's I don't know. They looked pretty decent in the first few games, but now Slovakia, of course, after losing that game to Germany in such heartbreaking and pretty rough fashion, they've been coming back and playing as a team. And you see this all across sports, right? When you have national teams of maybe smaller nations, guys that know each other, they grew up together, they had a chance to play with each other for a long time. You have bigger nations that have all the big stars but don't have a ton of cohesion together. A lot of the times, those upsets are much, much more common. And while a lot of these guys on Team USA did come through the National Development Program, they grew up playing together as well. That cohesion and that feeling of playing as one is not quite there. So it definitely is very interesting. Going to read a couple more chats here. Tony says, yeah, I think so. Robert's saying, I think having Suzuki's the captain's going to be good for sure. Planko, the new channel member, thank you so much for being here again, Planko. Said, not only OT, I don't think I saw Cole Caufield the whole game, sadly. That's the thing. Like, he was there. He played 15 minutes, but I felt the same way. It was very, very rough. But Jesse, there was a Habs prospect that had a phenomenal day today, a phenomenal tournament, and that is Arber Xhekaj. I'm going to play this for you guys again. 2 goals on the day, including another beautiful tip in front. Just look at the slow-mo of this. Arber Xhekaj, like, he's getting a reputation for this now. Look at this tip. He had a couple tip goals last game, and then his second goal of the game, well, it was a pretty bad mishandle. That's maybe the easiest goal you're ever going to see in international competition. Jesse, Arber Xhekaj leading the tournament in goals, more goals than Connor Bedard for Team Canada. He is like one of the biggest stories of this tournament, other than Team Slovakia and Slav's memes and all this stuff. This guy legitimately looks amazing with NHL talent even on his wing and Puljujärvi. Like, I don't know. I know he signed for one more year in Europe, but from what I'm seeing from him, just like, it's one of those things you love to see. When you're 20, it doesn't matter how old you are, 18, 19, 20. I know some of these guys had their, development messed up from COVID and all that stuff. A guy like Arber Xhekaj, you never know. Maybe he's just a late bloomer. But that growth trajectory, I guess this way, that growth trajectory this year so far has been unreal for him, because he's gone from like solid regular season to insanely good playoffs to dominating the tournament. And before I get your answer, Jesse, I just got to say, we got another super chat from Angie, the #1 fan, always here, always with the donations. Guys, leave a big shout out to Angie there in the comments. That hi there, fan #1, sending good energy for the best Habs content creators. Thank you so much, Angie. We really, really appreciate you being here every single day. And Derek Rendell, new channel member as well. Derek, if you feel free to send a message, we'll try to answer it. But Jesse, Arber Xhekaj, one of the most underrated Habs prospects, into a guy that is now getting international attention. What can you say about him?
He's just being dominant on the offensive zone and also on those draws. And as we see from the goal that he scored today, one of the 2, right? Such a nice play, because first he wins the draw, then going right to the net. And then again, just those amazing hands, setting the screen, tipping that goal in. I would say the Finnish team as a whole was doing a very good job of tipping shots, kind of looking for that sort of play as much as possible. But I mean, what can you say about Arber Xhekaj right now? He's just doing all the right details, right? But showing such tremendous hand-eye coordination on some of these tip-ins, right? Like, this is somebody now, like, I was already kind of pretty intrigued by how well he's performing and really in a men's league in which he was playing. But it's like, now with every game that goes on, it's like, no, okay, I want to see this guy with the Montreal Canadiens, at least with the Laval Rocket pretty soon, to see what this guy can do. Because I mean, it's so hard to determine, like, what is this guy's ceiling right now?
That's the thing, that we don't really know. His growth trajectory has been very, very interesting. Like, all of a sudden, partway through this regular season in Liga, he just started becoming really good, started taking notice. Hey, there's not many 20-year-olds in this league doing what he's doing. Come playoffs, 14 points, 7 goals, 7 assists in 13 games. Okay, that's impressive. He's still only 20. World Hockey Championships, coming out there and he's leading the tournament in goal scoring, not just with, like, bad goals against bad teams. Like, yeah, okay, one of them today, let's be honest, sure. But half of his goal, 3 of his 5 goals are beautiful tip jobs, which is just something that applies absolutely everywhere. So he has been insanely good. We got a lot of people saying, Arber, no Kapanen, says Filip Le Tank Poirier. Arber, no cap. He's unbelievable. No Kapanen. Kapanen looks like the mini version of Suzuki. That's interesting play-wise. And then Derek, that's from Planko. Derek says, I really like the idea of adding Cole Perfetti. We got a lot of stuff. And we also got Tony saying that you don't want to re-sign Slav for too much money to hurt the rebuild. There's a lot of stuff that we're going to get into there, Jesse. But we're going to start again just with these comments on Kapanen. What do you think about that Kapanen-Suzuki comparison? I don't know if I quite see it. I think I could see it, like, sort of play-wise. But I think Kapanen, like, I feel like Suzuki's more of a natural creator than Kapanen. I feel like Kapanen plays, so far, has been elite in his net front role, something we haven't really seen Suzuki do at that next level yet. I'm sure he did it a lot when he was younger. But I think Kapanen is just one of those super translatable, like maybe never going to be a top 6 guy, like ever in the NHL. But one of those guys that you just kind of like, yeah, I just love having Oliver Kapanen on my team. We pay him $4 million a year, or $4 million a year, and he's just amazing every year. Like, he almost has that profile. Am I crazy for saying that?
No, he could end up being a very good third line center. If not, maybe he gets to a second line center. Now, how wild would that be?
That'd be
Somebody
crazy.
like Oliver Kapanen coming out of nowhere, right? But again, Suzuki was a very good young centerman and in a leadership role, but at the same time, Kapanen, he's been a former captain for Finland, right? Really great leader for his team as well. But he's almost kind of reminding me of Brendan Gallagher, like classic Gallagher back in the day, but almost like with better hand-eye coordination to be able to tip home a lot of these shots. I know I'd love seeing Slav going to the front of the net, tipping home these goals as well, right? But for me, it's almost, you can never have enough of those guys that can really have those type of capabilities. We see that's what all the elite players do. Brady Tkachuk earlier on this tournament had a beautiful hand-eye, but Oliver Kapanen's doing the same thing, just better this tournament, right? And it's so funny when you see a player kind of coming out of nowhere, competing with NHLers, and then kind of playing better than a lot of them in a lot of ways. You have to feel like this is maybe kind of intriguing Kent Hughes at the very least.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, well, I'd say he was intrigued when they saw him play even in the playoffs, but this is another level for Oliver Kapanen. Amazing stuff for him. Guys, I'm going to take just a second here. I'm going to ask you for two things. First thing, I want you guys to leave a like. We got 235 people in here, but only 43 likes. As you guys know, we love to get that number up above 100 if we can. So if you guys like what you're seeing right now, hit that like button down below. Get us up to 100. We really appreciate it. And I want to get to a couple more comments. We see Derek Rendell saying Jets need D. Barron has a brother in the Jets organization. That's very true. I think we might get into that later because we got an interesting topic we got to get into about a different guy the Habs could get other than Cole Perfetti. And Tony says, nice, Andrew, Josh, and Jesse are always so great with our Habs news every day. The channel lets me just check in and get caught up with some great insights. So glad I stumbled onto Habs Digest. Well, thank you so much, Tony. That means so much. And again, we really appreciate having you here all the time. And new channel member as well, Jay Fowler, though, who has been a long-time supporter, says, hi, guys, just became a member as well. Thank you very much, Jay. The other thing I wanted to mention, we mentioned this before, made a community post, but we're trying to revamp our channel membership. So not only do we answer your messages here in live streams and in comments and priority, but we're going to have new weekly videos voted on by you guys for what you want to see. And this week, we talked about our favorite Habs ever and our stories of how we became Montreal Canadiens fans. So even if that and just a lot of extra content sounds interesting to you, go join our channel membership. We have a bunch of different tiers, even one tier allowing you to have video calls with myself and Jesse talking about the Habs, and one more that would even allow you to be in a Habs Digest video. But even at the lower tiers, guys, I'm sure you'll find something that you really like, even if it's just priority comments or these weekly videos. So please go check it out. We'd really appreciate it. Jesse, we got to talk about Maxim Tsipalov. And on 32 Thoughts today, Elliot Friedman reported that the Canadiens are among one of the 12 teams that have met with Tsiplakov. I think I said Tsikalov. Tsiplakov. I think that's how you pronounce it. A decision is expected this week. And Maxim Tsiplakov, have you ever heard of him? No, you probably haven't because he was undrafted. He's a 25-year-old forward. He's a winger in the KHL for Moscow Spartak. He's 6'2", 189, and he's fresh off a 31-goal season in the KHL. He's a free agent that would have to be signed to a 1-year entry-level contract, so a very low-risk contract for any team that wants to get him. And the Habs are interested. Jesse, I love this. The Habs love their big guys. This guy seems to fit perfectly. He kind of came out of nowhere with a 30-goal season. It could be a very low-risk contract, just a 1-year entry level if they sign him, but I feel like he can immediately provide that kind of bottom six scoring punch that the Habs are looking for.
And getting some size, but then also player at 25 that can still be better for this team long term. Now, this is what I love, and I try Kent Hughes to be able to kind of charm these prospects of the master negotiator. If there's one GM out of those 12 that could really get him, I think this is definitely an intriguing player, right? You have to feel like it's one of those situations where it's like very low risk, very high reward. Now we'll wonder, okay, how is this going to translate to the NHL, maybe could be mediocre, could be very, very good for this team, right? But it's so nice to see that this team really knows that they need size. It seems like they're addressing it. They're going for players that fit this type of profile. And I just think it's such an important thing that the Habs have really understood that they need to improve on, that they're really taking steps. So great to see players come out of the woodwork that might fit this mold for us.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Like, adding depth scoring is the biggest well, I guess adding like a superstar offensive talent is maybe the biggest need, but you never know what Slav's going to turn into. And obviously, I'm sure the Habs are shopping around for that, but those are not just, you can't just go next door, pick one up at the store for $5 and walk away. You have to get creative. But the depth scoring for Montreal, Jesse, outside their top line, there was very, very little production throughout the lineup, lines 2 through 4 for most of the season. But adding a guy like Tsiplakov, 30 goals in the KHL is nothing to sneeze at. Like, while yes, some people might say Jordan Wheel had 30 goals in the KHL this year, that's former power play player for the Habs, Jordan Wheel, mind you. Anyway, yes, but also look at someone like Kaprizov, who was younger, right, and had similar goal totals and is now putting up 40 goals every single year in the NHL. And I mean, he's a bit of a different player, but that kind of scoring touch, you can't really teach it. 25 years old, you can't teach the size at 6'2", and anyone that can score 30 goals in the KHL, I'd say that is at least going to translate to somewhere between 10 and 15 goals in the NHL with the right line mates. I feel like I don't want to get myself too hyped over a guy that probably won't even end up signing here, but to me, it just feels like the perfect fit for Montreal, though I just wonder if they're going to be able to sell him on the city of Montreal in the middle of, just coming out of a rebuild, but I guess you never really know.
Well, that's it, and nothing to really lose by trying in this type of situation. Maybe we could throw a sweetener. It's like, let's get Bogdan in it the same way. Let's package it. I think we're going to have a couple forwards, like maybe Demidov too. Let's just get all 3 Russians. Let's get them over here and into the lineup sooner than later, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, if we get Demidov, we go get him, and then we get Tsiplakov, we get Bogdan, and then, a few years down the line, Yevgeny Volokin's ready to come over, and it's just going to be a completely new look of a team. The Bleu Blanc et Rouge is going to mean something completely different for the Montreal Canadiens if that kind of timeline works out, but I like this. I like that the Habs are one of these teams, exactly like you said, Jesse. There's not too much more we can say about it because we don't know a whole lot about Tsiplakov, but I do suggest you take a look at Kyle Cushman's tweet that you can see embedded here with Habs links with the other source. I mean, I could have just taken a screenshot of 32 thoughts, but it is what it is. There's actually a really nice highlight reel. That's pretty much all I know about him. And we see Tsiplakov is a top 6 on our squad, says Xander Baldwin. Don't know about that. Like, 30 goals in the KHL is good, but you got to see how they fit in the NHL. Not everyone's going to come over and be amazing. Look at some of these high-ranked prospects like a Guryanov, who just never really got it going for Montreal, who had all the potential in the world, right? So there's that. Going to look at some chat. Some people are saying trade Newhook, and Newhook plus a 5th for 2nd overall. That's not going to happen. Newhook's value is not that high, unfortunately, and I also want to keep Newhook, so thank you very much. Another Russian to help Demigod. Yeah, Demigod. Still not sold on Newhook, but I love if we get our hands on Demidov. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much true. And then Robert says, so would you take Demidov over Lindstrom? And Planko said, I will not. Interesting. Jesse, might as well just toss to that some draft stuff before we get into some Habs defense potential trades. Would you take Demidov over Lindstrom in a vacuum right now today? I think your answer is yes, but I'm wondering if your mind has been changed at all in recent days.
It is, but I'd be happy with either player. I think both of them in their own way have a lot to contribute. With Lindstrom, you're kind of getting the size that's so nice within our top 6, but with Demidov, you're getting that skill that we need more of while we're waiting it to kind of unfold even more with Cole, with Nick, with Slav, and everybody else, right? So I really see that being a win-win. I think if we're able to get one of those 2 players at this draft, we got to consider that a serious win.
100%. Yeah, great question. I mean, it's amazing. Filip says the Bleu Blanc Red Wing. Is that what that says? The Hearts, but yeah, Bleu Blanc Red Wing. Oh my goodness, that'd be hilarious. But yeah, that's some interesting stuff. But there's something else I wanted to get into, Jesse, and apologies, guys, the chat's going to come off the screen. By the way, what do you guys think of the chat here? What, as Derek says, Yuri Xhekaj, yeah, that's a name. That's a name I haven't heard in a while. What do you guys think of the chat over on that side of the screen? Do you guys like it? Now you'll be able to go back and see what you said later on, which is pretty cool. But it's going to disappear because we're going to do some web sharing, guys. So we're going to head over to this. And we got to talk about a recent article that Jesse sent me, and I think we got to talk about. It's from the Hockey Writers, talking about Canadiens defensemen, who stays and who goes. And there's a lot of questions here, and I want to get your guys' feedback on this. And Jesse, probably you first. They're pretty adamant that David Savard and Mike Matheson should stay. Guys, you can actually pause the stream if you want to read this. Actually, what I'm going to do, Jesse, is I'm quickly going to share that link in the chat for these fine people. I'm just going to share that link in the chat if someone wants to go read it, and we're going to head back. So, David Savard and Mike Matheson, their consensus is that they should both stay at this point. Having, well, for now, David Savard probably not staying till the end of the season, but probably not leaving this summer. When you look at Mike Matheson, David Savard, well, they say, I do not see Savard finishing the season in a Canadiens jersey. Hughes will want something in return. I completely agree. He's an expiring contract. But I think you hold on to him for as long as you can to keep that veteran presence. And then a Mike Matheson, I am still of the mind that you got to keep him around. I know his trade value might be high, but I think he's very valuable to this organization at his cap hit. Maybe you keep him for this year and look to move him next year. I think for now, both of these guys stay with Savard going to the trade deadline. What do you think?
Yeah, you keep David Savard just for the same reason. It's like he helped Arber Xhekaj develop so much this year. You basically keep him for that reason alone. Obviously he's helping the team, but most importantly, he's helping the younger players getting ready to take that next step. And I believe this next crop of Guhle, and this next generation, which I think really, Cayden's at the top of, they're ready to start taking the reins pretty soon, just not quite yet, but definitely Kent Hughes. He's gonna want to get value for David Savard before this trade deadline. So of course his time with the Montreal Canadiens are numbered, but every single one of them is going to be of tremendous value for Mike Matheson as well, right? There's a lot of rumors kind of going on, should we trade Mike Matheson for a top six if we could get a bona fide offensive punch? And it's an interesting, discussion to have, right? But that being said, with still so much youth on it, the argument can be made that you really want to keep Matheson and Savard just till we're ready to take that next step. Remembering that Mike Matheson was the 9th most productive defenseman in the NHL this year.
Yeah, that's the thing. That kind of stuff is hard to replace. And as a Montreal team that's probably trying to be a fringe playoff team next year, getting rid of some of your one of your best players, one of your most productive players, I think is always a tough sell. So that's kind of our opinion. What are your guys' opinions? We're going to go back to the chat. I can't see it right now, but we'll go back and look at it after, I'm sure. But they're talking about some young players as well. Again, you guys can read along with us here, but there's a lot of different stuff. Talk about Cayden, Guhle. Only worry is health, but hey, not going to call him injury prone yet. I think he's good. Jordan Harris, I think, is very interesting, Jesse. We've got Jordan Harris. He's an interesting case. To me, he's a jack of all trades. He does everything well, but there's nothing at which he's brilliant. While I love Harris regarding personality, he's taken a stance about, pride jerseys and racism. Harris is an amazing person on top of being a great hockey player. Team looking for consistency at the back could come knocking, and he could be just that. Now, Jordan Harris, to me, Jesse, I'm going to switch back to the stream view for now as we talk a bit about Jordan Harris. We'll get into some of the other people a bit later now. But Jordan Harris is one of those guys that I personally believe will look really, really good in another jersey and play really, really good for another team's second pairing for probably a long time. I think there's too much in Montreal. I think he's a bit backed up, and I think that he could really, really be one of the best beneficiaries of a new team, which is why I think exploring a trade is not only good for Montreal to get rid of some of this backlog, but also good for Jordan Harris's career. What do you think? Am I off base?
Not at all. I think we're going to be seeing that this summer with Jordan Harris being traded to another team, and his mobility will really be a benefit to another team as well, right? A young player, and you have to feel like if he's given the opportunity that he can really kind of shine. We just have too much kind of going on. I agree that maybe it's his ceiling of being kind of a second pair defenseman, but I think he can absolutely get there, right? But just with Xhekaj, with Struble kind of taking the jumps up, Mailloux coming up, Reinbacher, obviously, the writing's on the wall right now, but obviously it's just from having a wealth of riches with the Montreal Canadiens right now.
Yeah, exactly. And I actually see a trade proposal from Derek Rendell. He says Harris and Jets first for a young forward, and Barron with Flames 25 pick for another forward. I think that just Harris and a late first round pick is not going to get you what you want, unfortunately, because when a team is trading for Jordan Harris, they have all the leverage, right? Montreal is the team that needs to get rid of their defenseman backlog. Same thing with, well, Barron's maybe a bit different, but Barron is also not quite as established. Yeah, goal scoring wise, yes, but don't forget he had a stint in the AHL this year. There's something missing with his game still. So when Montreal's looking to trade these guys, Jesse, I think that there's just other teams just have that extra bit of leverage. So I don't know if Harris and a late first or Barron and that Calgary pick is quite enough to get the kind of caliber of player we're looking for. Like, even at depth forward, I'm not totally sold that it'll get some. Maybe it will, because I mean, we traded a few later picks and stuff. There's some interesting stuff for Newhook. Like, you could. I wouldn't mind it, but I just feel like I'd want to maybe package it to get something a little bit more. You could almost put all of that together, you know?
Right. Well, this is why the Montreal Canadiens are going to start being more competitive as of next year, because they're going to start making trades which are more about the immediate and less about the future, right? Because it doesn't make sense to trade Jordan Harris for futures, for prospects. You already have a lot of that. He's already kind of a future, project. So that's really kind of a net zero in doing that sort of move. So I see packaging it, but we're going to want to get a player that can come into our lineup, even if that is kind of a depth bottom six to get a little bit more scoring there. I think that's going to be a lot more benefit, where we're now using kind of these prospects, this overflow of defensemen for now players that can help this team right away in the areas that we need the most help, because Lord knows we have the prospects.
Yeah, that's the thing. There's a lot of stuff. The Habs got to start going, swinging for something big, guys. I wanted to say thank you very much for getting us to 100 likes on the stream. Thank you to everyone who has hit like, and for those of you who haven't hit like or subscribe, I suggest you do it now. And I also forgot, you know what, this is one other perk of channel members that I'm not sure if even the channel members here know about, some of the new ones, but we got lots and lots and lots of emojis to send in chat. I just sent a few there. Slav, we got Kirby, and here's one of my favorites that not a lot of people use, but is very applicable right now, Brad Marchand. And I know a lot of people are actually kind of siding with the Bruins in this whole saga versus the Panthers, but hey, feel free to use those, channel members. There's a lot of nice reactions we got there. I see people saying Tony Lois is agreeing on keeping Savard and Matheson, but if we're out of the playoff picture at the trade deadline next year, need to listen to offers on both. I think you should be listening on offers always, and I think that's what Kent Hughes has made clear that he is going to do. He's always going to listen, because if you give him an offer he can't refuse, well, he's going to take it, and I think that's something that I really like about Kent. So I've said that before about Harris, but geez, I like him, says Tony, at least until we see what we actually have in the other guys. That's the thing, though. With this backup, Jesse, I don't like this backup of defensive prospects. I don't know if we're ever going to actually see what we have in terms of the full potential of some of these guys, because of the lack of playing time that we might have for them. At some point, we're going to have to take a risk. Kent Hughes and Jeff Gorton are going to have to say, even if they do good somewhere else, we got to just take this decision. We got to make this decision right now and figure it out, because I'm just afraid that if we hold on for too long trying to see what else we have, you're just going to end up with everyone not developing to their full potential and not having the best trade value. It's such a scary situation, knowing some guys could go off somewhere else, but I think it's a decision they have to take.
It's so true, because the same argument can be made for our top six. If sometimes Kent is reluctant to make a trade to bring somebody into our top six because he feels, oh, maybe we got a player like Joshua Waugh who already fits that, or a Newhook, or obviously, like the Slavs and things like that as well, right? But the same could be said for defensemen, right? Is if you have too many, you're kind of taking away the opportunity for a player to really grow into that. At a certain point, they need the ice time to really be able to develop, right? It's great to have competition, but it almost gets at a certain point, if there's too much, where you don't want an environment where they feel if we're making one mistake, okay, we got 20 other guys, right? But I think, again, as Tony's saying, it's like we really need to be patient, because I believe some of our defensemen are going to be a lot better than we think they're going to be, and some of them are going to end up being a lot worse, inevitably, right? So while we consider it such a luxury, right, we actually need to be patient and kind of hold on to this for as long as possible, just knowing that there's so many variables, and really just trying to hoard all these great players as long as we possibly can.
Yeah, it's very, very true. And Jesse, I think we're just going to head back and look at some of the other people that they say in this article, because there's some people that I know, some people in chat are really going to want to talk about. And you guys are going to like this. All right, let's head back here. So we talk about Arber Xhekaj. He's had 2 shoulder surgeries, but they say they don't foresee it diminishing his game. Kind of just seems like the kind of guy that they want to keep around. Not only does he provide the intimidating presence, but he can also be an offensive weapon at times, which many reports have said makes him a unicorn. Do you know many players who play an enforcer role but also play on the second power play? It's a fantastic point, Jesse. Soon to be Juraj Slafkovsky, who's apparently going to be an enforcer. Arber Xhekaj, just a quick hitter. Would you even listen to trade offers on him? Because I feel like we've heard people say that first round pick for Xhekaj was something that was potentially offered. Are you just shutting down everything for him at this moment, or are you at least going to maybe listen again? Because he is, unfortunately, one of these guys. Even though he's a unicorn, he is part of the big backup right now.
I'm not listening to any trade
Love
requests
it.
on Arber Xhekaj. Of course, you're listening, right? But you know that you're just going to have to bring a king's ransom to really impress Kent Hughes when it comes to this. Why? Because Montreal Canadiens fans are so smart. And when they respond to a player like this, when there's just a buzz in the Bell Center, when he's on the ice, you know that there's something special about this player, some X factor that this player brings that just really separates him from everybody else. And that's what we have in Arber Xhekaj, right? It's so rare to have this combination of old school and new school hockey, right? But I believe you really need that to be successful, not just in the regular season, but again, in the playoffs. The Montreal Canadiens, it might not look like it because we're in a rebuild right now, but make no mistake about it. We're all about building a playoff competitor, getting players that will excel in this environment. And Arber Xhekaj is definitely one of them. We bought Florian Xhekaj to get in the fold to see what he can kind of do as well, right? So going to be so amazing to see going forward. But honestly, I see Arber Xhekaj taking a huge step next year and being a dominant force for the Montreal Canadiens.
Would it shock you if Arber Xhekaj scored 10 goals next year? I feel like it's not crazy.
No, he's got an amazing shot, right? And we're all clamoring for him to use the slapper a little bit more. We know his wrist shot's so great. He's got such a great ability to get it on the net, which is such a great skill in the NHL. It's great, but we want to see that slapper even more. This guy can let it rip. If there's one thing he should be working on this summer is working on his one-time slap shots for the second power play unit next year.
We'll see if he even gets time. If we have Lane Hudson there, Jesse, and Mike Matheson, unless we want to run some 2 defense power plays, it's not. I mean, it's not
Right?
crazy. I think most teams run with the 4 forwards. Some even running 5 forwards. We've seen Montreal do that occasionally, but yeah. I mean, we got Matheson and potentially Hudson. It's going to be tough to find some room for him. That's the thing. Like, there's so many good players. But I'm going to read some chats as well. We got some rats there from Planko. Derek says Bedard. Not sure what that's referring to, but yes, Bedard. I agree. Blanco says, no, definitely don't trade Xhekaj. Jesse knows. Let's not forget about Joshua Roy. That's another thing, do I kind of forget about Roy? You forget that he's going to be going into like maybe a full-time NHL role next year. You got Kirby Dach coming back as well. And you add maybe a guy like Tsiplakov, and then you maybe you trade for someone at the draft, and all of a sudden this is like a borderline playoff core, like maybe sub-playoff, not an amazing team yet, but you start to build these pieces that you need, so you're really, really not far away. Jesse, I don't have too much more to discuss in this, so we're gonna head back to this article one more time because they talk about Justin Barron as well, and then we got to get into some of the rookies. This is the last thing I think we're gonna get into, unless you guys want to talk about something else. If you guys want to circle back to Slav and the World Hockey Championships, we'd be happy to, because I mean honestly, like at absolutely any moment I could bring that Slav stuff up and we could talk about him for hours. But they talk about Barron. Player's progression has been the most difficult. When Hughes got him from Colorado, it was hoped Barron could be smooth skating right shot D. But they said, well, I would prefer that he's traded. I'm not sure he's going to get enough value to make it worth for Hughes. And you talk about how Maillou's presence actually maybe makes Barron expendable. And then they talk about Jared Struble, the Canadiens, and then they talk about Xhekaj's name spelled wrong. So anyway, we're not going to get too much into that. I think this actually holds a lot of credence, Jesse, when you look at the fact that Logan Maillou's presence. Logan Mailloux was better than Justin Barron in the AHL this year. When I went to watch a game, it was night and day between those two. And it really, to me, seems like, oh yeah, these emojis, so I'm going to hide that back down. But it really seems to me like Barron straight up is expendable. I feel like Mailloux is better in almost every aspect of the game. He's bigger. He's similar skating wise. He's probably not as good defensively just because Barron has those NHL reps. But like, having Mailloux there, I feel like just makes Barron someone you can almost give away in a sense, which I hate to say because you traded Lehkonen for him. But at the same time, like if you trade him now, you're not going to get full value. It's just one of those, I feel like it's a lose-lose for him unless he really steps up next year.
Well, that's it. And it's also like the type of defenseman that we have. Of course, Matheson's a left D compared to Justin Barron's right D, but they both play a similar sort of offensive game. And when you're definitely more of an offensive-minded defenseman, for sure there's going to be a little bit more of those turnovers, and you live with that. You live with Matheson having some turnovers sometimes, even though you maybe like a little bit less because of the point production, right? But it's just, you don't want to have too many guys like that turning the puck away on your decor for obvious reason. Obviously, that leads to goals against, right? So not only do we have Masson, which plays that similar type of role, and Lane Hudson now, right? But now even worse, you have Mailloux who plays that offensive game on a right shot, same as Justin Barron. Like if the pressure wasn't already on him, he has to be feeling it right now. It feels like this is an NHL level player. And again, like similar to Jordan Harris, like you just wouldn't be surprised to see him go into another system and score goals. Not to say that his defensive game would ever be perfect, but being able to produce at the NHL level, for sure he can do that. And it's up for another GM to say, okay, on our team, do we have space maybe for a guy like that? Because it's not every team that really has, those offensive type of defensemen all the time, right? So maybe there might be a space for him on another team, but again, we're always hoping the best until they prove us wrong.
Yeah, exactly. You're very much right. And I'm gonna read a few more chats here. We got Planko saying you need a guy like Xhekaj in times where guys like Rempe are coming into the NHL. It's actually a good point. You know what, Jesse? This sounds ridiculous, but if this is not something I want to have happen. But what if the Habs drafted Silayev, right? And you just have Silayev and Xhekaj on that back end. No one is going to come into the Habs defensive zone. Silayev is 6'7" and a smooth skater with offensive upside. He's kind of like Xhekaj in a lot of ways, though with a much higher ceiling. There was reports today saying Silayev could go potentially as high as number 1. I don't know if I believe that, but there was one amateur scout who said they actually flip-flop between Celebrini and Silayev simply because of Silayev's upside. That is kind of insane to me, Jesse, but it's not maybe that insane. Oh, as we get a super chat from Jordan Saylor saying, do you guys think Montreal will go over the salary that Suzuki is making for Slaf or anyone else? Well, I guess we'll circle back to what I was saying about Silayev in a bit, because we are going to answer this. When we play this stuff, Slaf is impressing us in every single way. Will he go over Suzuki's number? I actually really don't think they will do that. I think they set a precedent with Caufield, and I think Slafkovsky is just the kind of guy that wants to win above all. And it's so hard to make assumptions about a player's character in that sense, especially when they're so young and that much money when it's presented to you. How do you say no? How do you not ask for more? But when you're looking at this, Suzuki making almost 8 million, 7.875 or whatever, Caufield like 7.85. I think Slaf could very well be worth more than that. I think Montreal's going to do everything they can to keep him under it, and I actually think Slaf is probably going to do it. He seems to love this team. He seems to love winning above all, and I know that when they look at this money, they're going to know, hey, that's going to help us win. Am I too optimistic for thinking Slaf is just going to accept sort of a bargain deal from Montreal long term?
He is going to accept that. He's not going to want to get paid more than Nick Suzuki. He knows that this is the best player on this team. Now, for sure, when we're talking about contracts, though, we're not just talking about who's the best player on this team this year. It's also in the future. That's why this is a great question. Thank you so much for bringing this up, because I totally agree. I believe that Slafkovsky does have the potential over his career to be better than Nick Suzuki. Mm-hmm. I think that he's proven even over the course of many games this last year where he's been the most electric, dynamic, kind of playmaker, and also starting the plays on the ice, right, for this team. He's really kind of the one kind of fueling the fire and really getting everything going, right? But that's the best part about Slaf is he has the potential to be the best player on this team, but I don't even think for his next deal that he's going to be looking for that type of contract. I think he understands the structure of this team, how important it is that they've really set up this salary structure in a particular way. He wants to play into that system. He wants to be a part of it, and he just wants to complement it because, again, he's about winning, and that's what's so amazing to have a player like this who most likely, really feels this way and that is going to take a type of deal like that, how that then opens you up to then add other complementary parts on your team. This is what really separates, teams that are just individuals to teams that can then, really put together a Stanley Cup winner because they're looking to play ball.
Yeah, exactly. I wanted to say thank you very, very much again, Jordan, for that generous donation. Thank you so much for the $14. Guys, leave a like on Jordan's message there in chat. Come on, give him a like for that super chat. That's amazing someone is willing to support us like that. Again, thank you to everyone who's become a channel member and donated in this stream. Like, give some love to them. I actually have an interesting take about this too, Jesse, and I just kind of thought about this when you were saying it. You know how big of a celebrity Slaf is in Slovakia, right? Can you imagine the amount of money he made? Oh, we got another super chat. I will get to you in a second, Curtis. I just need to finish my thought. I promise. Thank you so much for your first super chat on the channel. I'm going to give that a heart. But here's the thing. Slaf is like a celebrity over there. Do you think there's a world where like he's just getting a bunch of money from sponsorships and stuff in Slovakia, and maybe that could help knock his contract down a bit? Because not every player gets sponsorships in North America, commercials, whatever. But not only is Slaf marketable in Montreal, across Canada, people are starting to love this guy. He is a superstar in Slovakia. He is like a mega celebrity. I feel like that kind of thing maybe flies under the radar a bit when you're looking at how much money he might end up asking for.
As he continues to play so well, he's going to be getting sponsorship deals left, right, and center because he is so marketable. There's such a big buzz. He's bringing so much excitement to this tournament. And it's at this tournament that we're seeing why there was such excitement about Slav in the first place, why there was such buzz. And it's turning out it was all for good reasons because this player could really back it up. There's something special, there's something skillful, but also very entertaining about the way that he plays hockey and the unique package that he is, right? So obviously he's going to be making bank like that. And Slav knows it, right? He's all about really winning, right? And when you are a player that is concerned first and foremost about that, everything else just takes a back seat, right? You'll take a little bit of that team-friendly deal because you know what your ultimate goal is. And I just feel so lucky as a Montreal Canadiens fan to have this type of player because I believe it's truly by having these type of individuals and characters and skilled players that you really do build a Stanley Cup contender.
For sure. And like Blanco said, you can always hide some salary into the bonuses, which is very true. Derek says he's from Cape Breton, Screaming Eagles for sure. And the Habs were here watching Lucas Romeo, a forward who once got traded, started to fill the net. I expect him a 4th to 7th round pick. That's really interesting, actually. I could definitely see that. As now we got to get to the other super chat, Jesse. Thank you so much, Curtis Vinish. I'm going to guess it's Vinish for your first super chat on the channel. People are liking it. Thank you so much for $14. He said, I hope we can move Anderson's and Gallagher's contracts. It will help us retain young talent and bring that top 6 forward we need. They only got a couple years left, which is the good news, right? Only 2 more seasons, I believe. I don't even think it's 3 anymore. I think it's 2 more after this year before they free everything up. If you can trade him, I think you go for it. I actually surprisingly think Anderson's one of those guys that still has a bit of value. I have said this a bunch, and I might be crazy, but this is my hot take, okay? This is one of the few like hot takes that I have. I think you'll be able to get rid of Anderson without retaining too much, maybe 25%, like I no more than that. I think you'll be able to get rid of him without having to give up a big asset, right? I think there will be teams that want to take a flyer on Josh Anderson that are willing to give the Habs. And I'm not saying you're going to get a big return for him. I think that your return for him you're going to get is basically negligible. But I think you might be able to just kind of give him away without having to give away a first-round pick or a good prospect to incentivize that team to take him on. That is my big hot take about Josh Anderson, Jesse. I don't think they'll trade Gallagher. I'm sure they'll listen, but I don't mind running out his contract. Anderson, I do hope they look into moving because they've reportedly done that already. But I actually think it's going to be possible. My big prediction is that we're going to see an Anderson trade, and Habs fans are going to be surprised by how not awful it is for us.
Let Kent Hughes cook for sure.
Oh, baby.
It's a great question, right? We do need to kind of make these moves to take us to that next level. It's unfortunate some of the remains in the Bergevin era that is unfortunately kind of holding us back from taking those next steps. Now, Gallagher finished off the season well. Armia had a turnaround season, so it's thankful that he kind of played himself out of that conversation. And thank goodness, right? Because it's one less player to kind of worry about, right? But we're talking about, can we move a Dvorak? Can we move in Anderson, right? Kind of, again, because not so much because obviously they're underplaying for their contracts, but just more so a fact, I would argue even more important that we need to free up some spots for just some of these younger guys as we continue to really develop, right? We got so many guys from the HL that are looking to kind of break through, right? So I think that's going to be so important to kind of navigate going forward. Now, Josh, if Kent Hughes could do something like that, that would be absolutely amazing. Again, Josh Anderson, like one of those players, like, there's a good hockey player there. Yeah. You could definitely go to a team and be of service, right? But it'd be interesting to see how that plays out this summer.
It's going to be weird. Yeah, I don't know if Anderson's going to get moved this summer. My big prediction that it's going to happen, and I'm sure a lot of you guys probably completely disagree with my valuation of him, but I think there's something still left in the tank. But fantastic question, Curtis. I think you're right, but think about this too, guys. We're just in step 1 of coming out of this rebuild. Step 2 is to start moving some of these bad contracts. I know we kind of already did it, but now we're looking to actually move them to make space immediately for whether it be an extension from Slafkovsky or Guhle, or for signing a big free agent, which is maybe less likely, or for trading for a really good player, right? There's a lot of stuff that goes into it. So yeah, fantastic question. Thank you very much. And we see a lot of comments here talking about Joshua Y. He could be really good. Tony says, hope you're right, Jesse. Derek says, Molson won't mind throwing in some bonuses to keep the initial salary down. That's very true. And again, that's something that we're definitely going to see a bit. I mean, the Habs have not been shy to go in all in on that signing bonus thing like they did with Sebastian Aho, as I'm sure a lot of us remember those calculations they did. And Tony's saying as well, if we can move Gallagher Anderson's contract without retaining any salary by throwing in some extraneous guys like Barron, I think that that's a bit of a pipe dream, but I think it could maybe happen. As Curtis kind of follows up saying, hopefully we can move one of them. 5 to 6 million is way too much for a third line player. That's true, but Jesse, the salary cap is also going up over the next couple of years, and it's just another couple of years left for these guys. Like, I know they're kind of clogging up space, but Price's contract is coming off the books, which will allow for a lot more summertime flexibility with contracts, with the cap. And then after that, you still have that 1 year of Anderson and Gallagher. And like two guys at that price, Armia's not going to be on the books anymore, even though he's been really good. You're not going to have too many of these big contracts. Dvorak's going to come off the books very soon as well. Like very soon, we're just going to see these contracts start to shed off, and the Habs are going to have more cap space than you expect. While yes, it could be great to move these guys, I don't think it's going to be the end of the world if they have to stick around for 1, maybe 2 years. Like 1 year more than you'd like. I don't think that's too bad, because a lot of teams have contracts that aren't that great. And Montreal's not going to be competing for a Stanley Cup for another, I would say, 3 or 4 years, though you never really know. I actually kind of think this timeline is better than we think. I'm kind of getting myself hyped up for it.
It's pretty amazing to see that all these contracts are kind of coming off the books as we're having a really big free agency class next summer, right? So I think it's probably written in the stars. It's just lining up for some really big moves to be done at this time. So you have to feel like it's just lining up in that way, right? Where we're gonna have the space and the right player is gonna be available, and that'll really be our next step in this Montreal Canadiens rebuild.
100%. Yeah, that's about right. And I'm going to read a couple more things. Derek Rendell says, Rob, I think he's a solid pick, especially in later rounds. I've seen many nights with fantastic drive in his game. I'm going to see who they're talking about. Lucas Romeo, right wing, 198 pounds, 6'3", 12 goals, 5 assists, 21 points in 26 games. Well, there you go. There's a new prospect that we haven't thought too much about, Jesse. I'm actually gonna bring this up really quick, just to show some guys, so I can bring this up on stream. This will actually be the last thing I think we're gonna bring up, guys, because we do have to go. But this was a fantastic stream. We're gonna bring up Lucas Romeo, as you can see here, 21 points in 26 games in the queue. It's nothing crazy. At 19 years old, you actually probably wish for a bit more production, but when you're 6'3", 198. You never really know, right? Maybe a growth spurt hurt him, and it's one of those guys that can maybe become a late bloomer. There's always different possibilities, but yeah, why not in the 4th to 7th round? But I think that's going to be it, Jesse. I just wanted to remind everyone here, 250 people almost that are still here. Thank you very much for being here. And if you just want to go check out our channel memberships, a lot of people joined in this stream. As you saw, we respond to those messages in stream chats and in YouTube comments in priority order. You can vote on things that you want us to talk about in a Habs Digest video. You get to join the Habs Digest Fantasy League. You get shout-outs and videos. If you see in the base bar today, we have 3 members at the hat trick tier. We give them shout-outs in the base bar of every video. And even at some higher tiers, you can even appear in a Habs Digest video. So if any of that, even just chatting with us in the chat, being able to use these custom emojis that we love to use all the time, sounds interesting, hey, have a look. I'm sure you'll find something. Jesse, I think that's about it for me. Is there anything else you wanted to clue up before we send the people home?
Thank you all so much for helping us hit 12,000 subscribers. We appreciate all the love so much.
Yeah, 12,000. What an amazing goal, guys. I forgot to thank you so much for 12,000. It's been the support over the last few days, especially these Slav videos, has been unbelievable. Our next goal is 13. We're actually getting close to the Blue Jays Digest. My brother hosts on that channel. So if you guys can help us pass them, they're at about 12,500. If you haven't hit subscribe, do it now. It's going to help us in that goal. But that'll do it for this episode of Habs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Be like Slav. Be like Slav. Be physical. Face your problems head on, right? That's what we do here. Slavzilla. He's the man. I'm Josh Goss, my co-host, Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you guys in the next one.